We're off to see the Oppenheimer, the wonderful Oppenheimer of Oz. We'll pull back the curtain on nuclear physics and bombs and learn the Hollywood history. Take a taxi to Cinema News Colombo. IMAX. Sete Rios Stations. Estação. Got the metro. Got the train. Got the taxi. Got the bus. Shopping. In here is the movie theater. This is the Cinema News adventure at the Colombo shopping mall in Lisbon. It's a huge one. They have everything here. DJI stores, Xiaomi stores, H&M stores, CNA stores, every kind of store you can possibly imagine. Let me check this out, man. Primark. They got everything here, man. Make no mistake, it looks like an old shopping mall that's been around for a while. Billabong. I haven't seen a Billabong shop. Billabong. Yeah, this place has it all. Oh, they have very, very nice flip-flops. You can consume to your heart's desire. And they even have a Burger King. So rest assured, everyone will feel at home here. Nike shop, Vans, Open Mind fashion store, New Era, JDS Esporte, Uomo. You can get Uomo underwear, you're going to be sorted forever. Casa Original. It's very diverse here. Looking for the cinema. China. New Cinema News. So here's your food court action. Plenty of food. All the way from where you get out of the taxi from Sete Rios. Here's the IMAX cinema. All the way at the end. Such a long walk. I'm gonna get my steps in. This place is huge. Must be the oldest shopping mall. It's kind of in an affluent area of Lisboa. Armado. So, over here somewhere, and there's the stadium again, Benfica. Here's the bowling. You can bowl. Cine. Here we go. Cinema News. Chegado. Ah, Oppenheimer. So here we're going for the big cinema. It's an event. So that's the national champion stadium. Well, that was intense. Definitely an intense movie. Very, very good. Robert Downey Jr. was excellent. And Gary Oldman, that little tiny bit part he had as Truman was amazing. The Midwest accent. Yeah, a very heavy movie, a lot to think about. I wish I was, with some people who understood the history and the physics, and I'd go drink a whole bottle of vodka. I've got a cat-proof window now, so I can open the window and the cats won't go out.
OSRD. This new organization was to initiate and direct a wide range of scientific and technical efforts, including the development of advanced bombs and missiles, radar, the proximity fuse, even medical treatments. Its most secret project was the atomic bomb, however. OSRD was placed within the Office for Emergency Management, but reported direct.
Okay, so thank you for being here. I'm glad you clicked on this video. I saw Oppenheimer yesterday, Oppenheimer. Really good movie, brilliantly woven together. The story is well written. Robert Downey Jr. stole the show with his character, his portrayal of Oppenheimer's nemesis. And Gary Oldman's cameo as Truman was brilliant. Gary is such a chameleon. That guy is amazing. I love him. The whole film was good. I recommend it. Obviously, lots of reviews and stuff. I posted a lot of stuff before I went to see it at Globehackers Facebook page. And it was a lot of fun to see because I've read a lot about nuclear bombs, history of the Manhattan Project, and biography of Oppenheimer, old books and new books, but over the years. And I've seen some other series about Oppenheimer and Los Alamos and the Manhattan Project. I've seen other movies. So I'm familiar with the characters, Heisenberg and all the physicists involved with it. So it was fun to watch because of that, this is how they're going to portray these guys, all these characters. And it was cast really well. They did a good job, I thought. Of course, it's a disturbing film because it's 2023, and what have we learned? So I went through my book list and I picked out the books that I've read over the years on this subject, and I put it on my website at globehackers.com. And I'm going to show you a few of the books that I recommend you read if you're interested in the subject. So I'll show you these books and you can decide, which ones to read. But yeah, it's disturbing, honestly. I felt like having a shot of vodka after that, because there's this war in Ukraine. Russia is a very dangerous country because of its nuclear arsenal, and so is the United States. And people who just cavalierly shrug off the danger of a nuclear war, I think I don't know what's wrong with them. We should be trying to sort this stuff out, but it seems like playing the great game is more important. That just drives me nuts. I don't understand people. You can have your arguments about why we needed to drop bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I've been to both of those cities in Japan. I lived in Japan a long time. Nobody blamed me when I was visiting or gave me a sideways look when I went to the Peace Museum in Hiroshima. But, counterfactual history, would they have surrendered if they'd been given another month? There are lots of good arguments on that side as well. But anyway, what happened, happened. And the world knows well the consequences of atom bombs. And now we have hydrogen bombs. Tsar Bomba, huge bombs. It's madness. And we have delivery systems that are hypersonic, which basically makes some of these, the warheads are kind of first strike. And some of the books I've read have talked about that policy, first strike deterrence. It's madness. It's insanity, in my opinion. But there you go. So, I wish people would push back against this ridiculous game we're playing in the world. In particular, trying to put the genie back in the bottle, basically, and figure out a way to live in peace on this planet while we sort out how we're going to make our civilization, which is highly energy dependent, sustainable. You can talk about peaceful nuclear energy, and that's great, and fusion power, and that's great, but we still have to operate our civilization under material constraints and recognize that the web of life is extremely important here for us, for our civilization, if we want to just be selfish about it. And we have no business with all these nuclear weapons. Something has to be done. I think one day they'll be used again, so we don't want to see that happen. Anyway, I'll show you some of these books. Okay, so I'm on my website, globehackers.com, book recommendations. And there's a few things I'd like to share, because over the years I've read a few things, but a few of them I think are interesting to read now. So The Making of the Atomic Bomb by Richard Rhodes, that's a classic. As is Dark Sun. Command and Control is interesting. Seventh Decade, they're all good actually. But Making of the Atomic Bomb by Richard Rhodes is a Pulitzer Prize winning book about the Manhattan Project, World War II, and all the people that were involved with it, So Einstein, Niels Bohr, Werner Heisenberg, Oppenheimer, and so on. So we see the movie. So, wow, gosh, it's a movie. It's so exciting, so interesting. What's going on there? It's still a good story, even if you didn't know anything about the history or about physics or about quantum mechanics or about Einstein or about anything, politics, geopolitics. It wouldn't matter. It's still a good movie. So, so one of the books that I think is really good to read is The Seventh Decade. Like I said, so that's a Jonathan Shell book, and it's just about how the whole thing evolved over the Cold War, and a lot of risk discussion there, and proliferation, nuclear weapons proliferation stuff. And basically, he argues for much more efforts towards global disarmament and to confront the dangers of nuclear weapons in the modern world. So, yeah, even though we skated for decades, doesn't mean the modern world is out of the woods. And he makes a good argument for that. I don't think that's the only thing he's doing in the book, but it's pretty damn convincing and interesting. It'll make you think. It might make you think that it's important to think about nuclear weapons and so on. So the other one is called The Dead Hand, and this is the untold story of the Cold War arms race and its dangerous legacy by David E. Hoffman. Now, this is also chilling because The Dead Hand is pretty scary. So the Soviet Union's nuclear war strategy during the Cold War and all that kind of stuff, everything pushes everything else, right? U.S. does something, they do something to counter it, and back and forth and back and forth. Pretty soon it gets pretty scary. Like I said before, really, really fast missile delivery systems that can't be counteracted. So anyway, so the dead hand is basically, it's like an automated retaliatory system. And so if there's like a decapitating strike on the Soviet Union at the time, it was it was going to go off and fire regardless. So the story that I posted on Globehackers today talked about this guy. Sorry, I can't remember at the moment, but he could have launched a nuclear strike and he didn't. And he thought later that he was an outlier, that if somebody else was in his chair at the time, we'd all be dead. So Scott Ritter posted a little article on consortium and SharePost, and I put that on Globehackers' Facebook book page, so you can read that if you want. But anyway, it's that easy to die. It's somebody makes a mistake. I think the whole game is a mistake, to be honest, but that's just me. And there are catastrophic consequences for a nuclear conflict. Let's just be real about that. I think all the pom-pom boys and the tough guys and everybody who thinks Russians are evil and Putler is the devil's seed and whatnot. He's irrational and stupid, even though he's been in power for 20 years. Somehow profits first is going to win every time, even if the externalities mean the destruction of our habitat and eventually civilization. Take this on board. These weapons are real. You can't go there and say, oh, it's fake news, dude, fake news. It's not real, man. It never happened. We didn't land on the moon, and a fairy killed Kennedy and whatever. No, it's real. It happened. They're dangerous. So The General and the Genius is another one that I read, which is pretty good. This one here. And anyway, that's about Leslie Groves, which is a main character in the movie played by Matt Damon, sorry. I'm getting old and COVID ruined my brain. Plus I have a million diseases. So I think if I were talking to you face to face, I wouldn't make so many mistakes. But anyway, that's my excuse. So anyway, so Leslie Groves, and he was in charge of the Manhattan Project, and he was the guy who was working with Oppenheimer to, do this project. And he was also a genius finding Oppenheimer and just putting things together the way he did while having to run a military industrial complex, which is a hugely complex corporation. It's unbelievable what he was doing. They were not the same kind of people. They had very contrasting personalities, and the film portrayed that to a large degree very well, but they still managed to get the job done. So the other book that I would recommend you read is, where is it here? American Prometheus, this one. So I listened to this audiobook a while back, and it was really, really good. And this is what the film was based on. So the script was by and large based on this. And, I listened to the audiobook, and I saw the movie, and I was like, whoa, I get it. But it was still really well done, and I was totally engrossed, and 3 hours just flew by, and I enjoyed it. But anyway, so yeah, that's about Oppenheimer, basically, his trials and tribulations and complex relationships that he had with all the people involved in the project, and then post-war struggles, as you'll see in the movie. But it's really interesting in the book, and it obviously goes into more detail. It's chilling. And yeah, great men in history or whatever, some skinny little genius comes along. Somehow he has the confidence to be a womanizer and a charmer and a politician and a genius linguist and all that kind of stuff. Usually people like Oppenheimer would have had the genius beaten out of them by high school. They're just too smart. People would have beaten them up and told them they were stupid. They would have believed it, and that would have been the end of the day. But I think Oppenheimer was charming enough and confident enough, for whatever reason, call it a miracle, that he was able to say, no, I'm cool. You believe I'm cool. And I'm going to go on to do great things. And he went on to do great things. And that confidence was portrayed in the movie, I thought, very well. And in the story, American Prometheus, the triumph and tragedy of J. Robert Oppenheimer. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this book. And the next one is a little bit off the charts. Now, just to tell you that I'm not totally biased, I have this book here, The Logic of American Nuclear Strategy and the Second Nuclear Age, and other books that are very hawkish, like, without nukes, we'd be nothing. We'd be dead already. I mean, America hegemony and empire is so important to the world, and without America, Uncle Sam, we'd all be dead already. The world would be hell. We'd all be barefoot and running through the jungle, and so on and so forth. But they're really good books, and they make you think. Like, yeah, it makes sense. Like every time I read a good book written by somebody really, really smart, who's done the work and can make their argument and tell a story, I'm always like, yeah, I can get that. And then I stop. A couple weeks later, I'm going, no, I don't go with that. So I'm stupid, so that's how I roll. Anyway, 5 myths about nuclear weapons, this book. It's good. It's interesting. And of course, it follows my bias, Bouliamti's bias. So Ward Wilson is talking about misconceptions surrounding the nuclear weapons, effectiveness and whatnot. And he gives a lot of historical and strategic examples and reasons for his arguments. But anyway, basically he has, I think, 5 or so points that he develops and talks about. I guess nuclear deterrence is one of them. You know, is it reliable in a crisis like we have in Ukraine right now? Or in China, when America wants to go to war with China and it's going to do everything it can, despite the fact that it can't, it still is a big trading partner with China and can't do a green thing without Chinese product and industry. It's so stupid. And finance is all interconnected as well. So yeah, really? You're going to go to war with China and completely destroy your own economy? The global economy, the neoliberal financialized global capital economy that you developed and taught the Chinese how to operate, and you're going to basically blow your legs off for what? I don't understand how people in the United States think. It's beyond me. So if you're smarter than me, which you obviously must be, please tell me. Give me links, give me books, give me arguments and whatever, and we'll see. I don't care. I don't have to convince you. You don't have to convince me. I just think it's stupid. So the other thing is like the idea that destruction wins wars, you know, shock and awe and so on. So we bombed the hell out of Iraq and arguably spent a lot of munitions on Afghanistan. And we win? We win what? So we bombed the hell out of Germany. There's fire in the streets. Asphalt is turning into, you know, magma, just eating people alive, melting their bodies. Dresden and whatnot, the firebombing of Tokyo. And that's going to win the war. Well, obviously it doesn't. At the end of the day, it doesn't win anything. And then we have what we have now. So is Tokyo, I lived in Tokyo a long time. Is it paradise, the way of life there? I don't know. But something different is coming after this era. I really firmly believe that. And what else was it? Oh, yeah. So the idea is that we have the bomb, and because we have nuclear warheads everywhere, we've had peace forever. And, well, we can argue about whether we had peace, what we mean by that. Like Steven Pinker, we haven't had any big world wars where everybody was involved. Yeah, but everybody was involved economically. The proxy wars in Africa and Indochina, everybody was involved. It just wasn't the same on an ideological narrative level and obviously on a scale, but it hasn't gone away. Forever wars and whatnot. Give me a break. Can you not see that? And yeah, okay, we can all go to the mall and buy fast fashion. That's really nice. A $6 or $3 shirt. Oh, it's lovely. I love it. But there's a cost to all of this at the end of the day. And peace in our time? I don't think so. It depends on where you were born. And, 400 and counting mass shootings in the States this year. I don't know. Most people are cool, but that's absurd. Anyway, the bomb keeping the peace, blah, blah, blah. And this book has some good reasons to think about that. So what else? I'm sorry, I get off on a tangent. Yeah. Oh yeah. So I'm always talking about genies going back in the bottle. You know, you can't put them back in the bottle. We invented all this stuff, and we have all this technology. We may not know how to deal with it wisely and so on. It's not going away. Trad dude, religious dude, whatever, ideological dude. Come on. We have to deal with it. All hands on deck around the world. So we have to put the genie back in the bottle in terms of nuclear weapons. We have to. We have to. So we have to push our leaders to do it. We have to wake up and realize that we don't need this. We just don't need it. So I hope to God people will read some of these books and think about it and talk to people. The last thing I wanted to talk about was my favorite performance in the movie, which was Robert Downey Jr. as Louis Lichtenstein Strauss. So isn't that wonderful? Juden. Anyway, Strauss, cool guy, very important person. He was one of the original members of the Atomic Energy Commission, the AEC, which was prominent in the movie. And he was a big player, and as you see in the film, in all these books, and in developing the nuclear weapons and the U.S. policy, the governmental policy and whatnot. And he was a major dude. I mean, he really was like a businessman and a philanthropist, and he was a big guy, big player, great. Stellar human being, but he was really interested in power, and he was involved with the American Jewish Committee in the 30s, and he was trying to bring refugees back from Nazi Germany. But you can read a lot of sources on him, and I think the Wikipedia page is pretty good. But anyway, he was with the AEC and he really gung-ho on all of that stuff, and didn't want the secrets to get to the Soviet Union. But of course, the secrets always get there, right? So you took down the Twin Towers, but the secrets, they never came out. No, I'm sorry. In the real world, they always leak out. So whatever you want to talk about, it's going to get out sooner or later. So, he was important, and he got taken down and taken off of the board of the AEC and whatnot. Like in the movie, but he's an interesting character, and Robert Downey Jr. nailed it. And good old Gary Oldman, my number one favorite actor, in that cameo, just nailed Truman. And also I have a Truman book in here that I read that was really good. This one, by McCullough. It's such a good book. And Truman was such a good character. And in the movie, it was so real. I get this crybaby out of my office. I gave the order to bomb the place, the cities. Not you, you piece of shit. You just built a bomb. Don't act like a crybaby martyr. You had nothing to do with it. And that's a real good point, actually. And of course, I love the Einstein casting because he looks exactly like Einstein. Look at this picture. Oh my God. So there's other books of the bombs. That's part of all these ones. And yeah, Raven's Rock, kind of on a different extreme side. Niels Bohr, really interesting guy. Schrodinger, not maybe so important in the nuclear thing, but still really good. Max Planck. And then these two hawkish books, like, we gotta have the nukes, dude. The world depends on American nukes. Anyway, I went on for 22 minutes. Sorry about that. I hope you go to Globehackers book recommendations and scroll down. I just put this up from my book list that I looked at today. And I keep a book list, and there was no reason to put these up because this is my COVID list down here. And I put these Russian and Chinese list books up that I read because of the shit going on in America, and then, whatever. Anyway, it's fun to read or listen to audiobooks or whatever. It's interesting, even if you're not a genius, like I'm not a genius. And what good does it do any of us to read these books? Well, it was really fun when I watched the movie Oppenheimer because I knew who the characters were and background, and yet I got totally taken in by the story of the film. And I was engrossed. But I had an extra layer of understanding looking at the characters, the actors, and understanding who they were portraying. So that's interesting. So anyway, thank you, Bulliam T.